Assalamualaikum and a very good day to Dr. Putri Zarina. My name is Asmawiyah binti Mohamed Zulkifli. I'm going to present my small scale qualitative study entitled ESL Primary School Teachers Perceptions, Challenges and Strategies in Teaching Grammar. So I will start with the background of my study. In teaching English as a second language, I believe that grammar plays an essential role in helping students to speak and write accurately. Without a solid understanding of grammar, students often struggle to express their ideas clearly and confidently. However, in many ESL classrooms, I observe that grammar is still commonly taught through memorization, repetitive drills, and exam-oriented practices. While these approaches may help our students to perform in tests, they often limit meaningful language use and reduce our students' interest in learning grammar. As a teacher, I also face challenges in making grammar lessons engaging and relevant to my students. At the same time, I have to balance between the curriculum requirements with the real needs, abilities, and attention span of my students in the classroom. These challenges highlight the gap between how grammar is expected to be taught and how it is actually taught in primary ESL classrooms. So these are research problems that relate to my study. In my teaching experience, I find that grammar teaching is both important and challenging. While grammar is essential for accurate language use, I often find it difficult to teach grammar in a meaningful way that helps my students to understand and apply rules in real communication. Many of my students also face difficulties due to their limited exposure to English outside of the classroom, and because of this, they struggle to understand the abstract grammatical rules, especially when grammar is taught in isolation rather than through meaningful context. And I also noticed that there are limited qualitative studies that focus on teachers' real classroom experiences, and many existing studies do not sufficiently explore teachers' beliefs, challenges, and decision-making process when teaching grammar in actual ESL classrooms. And this gap highlights the need to better understand teachers' perspectives in order to improve grammar teaching practices at the primary level. So I have 3 research objectives. First, to explore ESL teachers' perceptions of grammar teaching. Second, to identify challenges faced in teaching grammar. And third, to examine strategies used to teach grammar effectively, which match my research questions. First, how do ESL teachers perceive teaching grammar? Second, what challenges do they face? And third, what strategies do they use? So my research participants are 3 ESL teachers from primary school level, and they have minimum 9 years of teaching experiences. I have selected them using purposive sampling. Next is the data collection procedure. I have conducted face-to-face semi-structured interviews where it takes about 4 to 7 minutes for each participant. And the interview session is audio recorded, which is then I transcribed it verbatim. So here you can see the interview transcription for participant 1. This is the interview transcription for participant 2. And the last one is the interview transcription for participant 3. Next, I also have considered some research ethics where I make sure that informed consent was obtained from all of my participants before I conducted the interviews, so that they clearly understood the purpose of the research, their role in the study, and their right to withdraw at any time. I also maintain the confidentiality of all of my participants by keeping their personal information private and using the data only for research purposes. And to further protect their identities, I use pseudonyms such as Participant 1, Participant 2, and Participant 3 instead of their real names when reporting and discussing of the findings. So here is the informed consent form for each of my research participants. They have to read the details and sign before I proceed with the interview session. For the data analysis method, I analyze the data using thematic analysis with an inductive approach, where the themes were developed from the data rather than being predetermined. And then, I carried out the analysis in three main stages. First, I label meaningful segments of the data. And next, I coded these labels to identify patterns. And finally, I categorized the codes into broader themes that represented the main ideas emerging from the participants' responses. So I will explain the three stages in details. The first stage is labeling, where I highlighted important statements from the interview data and assigned simple labels to capture their main meanings. For example, I have the audio from the interview session, so let's listen to the audio first.
In your opinion, how important is grammar instruction for ESL learners?
In my opinion, grammar instruction is very important for ESL learners because it helps them construct correct sentences, especially in writing.
So when participant 1 said that grammar instruction is very important, I labeled it as importance of grammar. Let's look at next example.
And what challenges do you usually face when teaching grammar?
The biggest challenge is students' low motivation and lack of confidence.
So, when participant 2 mentioned students' low motivation, I labeled it as effective challenges. And let's look at the last example.
And in your lesson, what methods or strategies do you usually use to teach grammar?
Well, usually I use storytelling, visual and digital games to teach grammar.
When participant 3 stated that I use digital games, I labeled it as interactive strategies. So those are the examples of the labeling in stage 1. Next, let's go to the stage 2, which is coding. In this stage, I group similar labels into broader codes to organize the data more meaningfully. For example, as you can see from the table here, the labels such as accuracy and language development were grouped under the code importance of grammar. And labels like confusion and abstract rules were grouped under challenges. And labels like games, visual, and digital tools were grouped under teaching strategies. In the third stage of the analysis, I categorized the codes into three main themes to capture the overall patterns in the data. These themes were teachers' perceptions of grammar, challenges in teaching grammar, and strategies used in teaching grammar, which together represented the key aspects of how grammar was understood and thought by the participants. I will explain more in the next slides. So based on the interviews, which I have mentioned in the previous slide, I have identified three main themes, with the first theme focusing on teachers' perceptions of grammar. I found that teachers believe grammar helps students speak and write accurately and provides a strong foundation for language learning. At the same time, they also view grammar as challenging and feel that teaching it requires careful planning to ensure that students can understand and apply the rules effectively. The second theme focuses on challenges in teaching grammar, where I found that students often feel confused by grammar rules and have difficulty remembering them. I also identified that limited exposure to English, along with low motivation and confidence, contributes to students' fear of making mistakes, making grammar learning more difficult for them. And the third theme focuses on teaching strategies, where I found that teachers use both traditional and interactive approaches to teach grammar. The participants mentioned that traditional methods such as drills and worksheets are commonly used, while interactive strategies such as games, digital quizzes, storytelling, and visual aids are also used to make grammar lessons more engaging and meaningful for students. Based on the interviews, I also found that teachers choose their teaching methods based on students' level, learning needs, attention span, and the resources that are available to them. I also observed that grammar is often integrated with reading, writing, and speaking activities so that students can practice using grammar in meaningful language contexts. So based on the findings, I suggest that teachers should use more interactive tools and integrate grammar into real-life language use to make learning more meaningful for students. I also believe that schools should provide more training, support creative teaching practices, and improve teaching resources so that our teachers are better equipped to deliver engaging and effective grammar instruction. In conclusion, based on my study, I found that grammar is essential for effective language learning, but it is also challenging to teach and learn. I observed that teachers face challenges and they respond to these difficulties by adapting their teaching through the use of games, digital tools, and learner-centered approaches to support students' understanding and engagement. And I would like to end my presentation with quote from Borg 2003, "To understand teaching, we must understand teachers." Therefore, I chose interviews to explore teachers' real experiences, beliefs, and challenges in teaching grammar. So that is all from me. Thank you, Doctor, for listening, and have a good day.